A Wheatfield with Cypresses is any of three similar 1889 oil paintings by Vincent van Gogh, as part of his Wheatfield series. All were executed at the Saint-Paul-de-Mausole mental asylum at Saint-Rémy, copyright my near Arles, France, where Van Gogh was voluntarily a patient from May 1889 to May 1890. The works were inspired by the view from the window at the asylum towards the Les Alpilles mountains. The painting depicts golden fields of ripe wheat, a dark fastigate Provençale section ale cypress towering like a green obelisk to the right and lighter green olive trees in the middle distance, with hills and mountains visible behind, and white clouds swirling in an azure sky above. The first version was painted in late June or early July 1889, during a period of frantic painting and shortly after Van Gogh completed the Starry Night, at a time when he was fascinated by the cypress. It is likely to have been painted en plein air, near the subject, when Van Gogh was able to leave the precincts of the asylum. Van Gogh regarded this work as one of his best summer paintings. In a letter to his brother, Theo, written on July 2, 1889, Vincent described the painting: "I have a canvas of cypresses with some ears of wheat, some poppies, a blue sky like a piece of Scotch plaid. The former painted with a thick impasto like the Monticelli's, and the wheat field in the sun, which represents the extreme heat, very thick too." Van Gogh suffered a bout of severe mental illness in late July and early August, but was able to resume painting in late August and early September 1889. After making a reed pen drawing of the work, now held by the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, he copied the composition twice in oils in his studio, one approximately the same size and a smaller version. The larger studio version was probably painted in a single sitting, with a few minor later adjustments adding touches of yellow and brown. Van Gogh sketched out the design with charcoal under drawing. He applied thin paint on the cypress trees and sky, with the ground allowed to show in places, and thick impasto for the foreground wheat and the clouds above. Characteristically, he preferred the brilliant white of zinc white for the white clouds rather than lead white, despite its poor drying qualities, with his palette also including cobalt blue for the sky, shades of chrome yellow for the wheat field, viridian and emerald green for the bushes and cypresses, and touches of vermilion for the poppies in the foreground and also synthetic ultramarine. The July plein air version was much more heavily worked, and may be considered a study for the more considered September studio painting. He sent the smaller and less accomplished studio version to his mother and sister as a gift. Vincent sent the larger July and September versions to his brother in Paris later in September 1889. The July version was sold by Theo's widow in 1900 to artist Epermel Milchafinica. It passed through the hands of collector Alexander Berthier and art dealer Paul Cassirer in Paris, where it was first exhibited and photographed at Galerie Eugenie Drouet in November 1909. It was sold to banker Franz von Mendelssohn in Berlin in 1910 and remained with the Mendelssohn family in Germany and Switzerland until it was sold to industrialist Emil Bar 1/4 HRLE in Zurich in 1952. His son, Dieter Bar 1/4 HRLE, sold the painting in 1993 to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York for $57 million using funds donated by publisher, diplomat and philanthropist Walter Annenberg. The National Gallery in London holds a similar version painted in Van Gogh's studio in September 1889, bought with a Courtauld fund in 1923. It is unlined, and was never varnished or waxed. The third smaller version is held by a private collection. Footnotes. References: National Gallery entry, Metropolitan Museum of Art entry, Vincent van Gogh's A Cornfield, with Cypresses, John Layton, Anthony Reeve, Ashok Roy and Raymond White, National Gallery Technical Bulletin, 1987, Volume 11, pages 42–59. Annenberg donates A. Van Gogh to the Met, New York Times, May 25, 1993. External links: Media related to Wheatfield with Cypresses by Vincent van Gogh at Wikimedia Commons. Vincent van Gogh, A Wheatfield with Cypresses, Color Lex.